News Radio 1150 KSAL. It's 8:21, 21 minutes past 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. Spritzing a bit, but should be sunny by this afternoon. Plenty of wind. That's what it was. But the flight of freedom, the flight of the human spirit, was canceled today.
Yeah.
Or postponed till tomorrow.
Yep. Michael Combs says, hey, let's try again tomorrow.
Okay. 52 degrees right now, and something wasn't canceled, a little trip. This gentleman took a little trip around the state of Kansas.
Indeed. Tracey Mann comes into the studio to talk to us. Good morning, Tracey.
Good morning, Jeff and Rich. Thanks for having me this morning.
Republican candidate for the first congressional seat, first representative, the big district, the big one.
The big first, 69 counties.
But you only went to 22 of them. What's the deal?
We only made it to 20 last week. Well, we spoke last week, Rich, when I was pulling into Stacy's, the breakfast place there in Junction City for our first stop, and we did 22 counties, 26 different towns or cities last week. Kind of exhausting, but had an absolute blast, met thousands of voters, and it was a great time.
Are they happy voters? Are they concerned voters?
People are concerned. I'm concerned. I think that by and large the consensus is that Congress has lost its way and that we need to get back on track. Last week, the 22-county tour was to announce what I call the Mann Plan, which is my plan to get our Congress and this country back on track. So that was well received, but people, like I think the three of us in this room, don't feel like the country's heading in the right direction.
My concern is looking at the approval rating of Congress and what's going on up there. My concern is why anybody would want to be there. Why anybody would throw their hat into the ring, spend the kind of time and money it takes to get there. What's wrong with you?
That's a great and a fair question. I was Jerry Moran's first intern in Washington, D.C. in 1997. I grew up on a farm in Quinter. My family's farmed and fed cattle there for 100 years. I went to K-State, but my first summer off the farm was in Washington working with Jerry, and he instilled in me a love for Kansas that's never gone away. And I feel like, if you look at Congress's approval rating, I feel like our Congress is getting a big fat F right now, and I feel like I can either sit on the sidelines or I can shut my mouth and try to do something about it, so that's what I'm working to do.
You're jumping in with both feet, 22 counties in your rearview mirror. Talk about what else you heard out there. I mean, people are disgruntled, but there's hope out there too, right?
Absolutely. The Kansas spirit is unlike any other, and people are resilient, and they have their heads down, and they're working hard, like a lot of people all over this country. The biggest issues I heard about, of course, is school funding, though that's a state issue, but that's fresh on people's mind and is very important. Healthcare, people are angry, frustrated with healthcare. I only met a couple people out of the multitudes I was with that were for the healthcare bill this passed, and then the overall size of our debt and deficit. Those are the three things that were on people's mind almost every stop that we made.
But there are 435 members of the House Representative. It seems tough, especially with the freshmen, and even those that have been there forever. The inertia and the size of government, the bureaucracy, and just, I was in Washington a couple of weeks ago, and you look at some of those buildings and you think, my goodness, there's the United States Department of Agriculture. Wow. And there ain't one loaf of bread that comes out of that place. I mean,
the size of our bureaucracy, in my mind, is appalling, and we've got to get government smart. Government's doubled in size in the last 10 years, and we've got to stop spending so much money. We've got to stop growing this bureaucracy. We've got to shrink government and put more decisions in the hands of local people to really get back to our basic roots and values.
Tracey Mann, a Republican for Congress, spent a little time with Jerry Moran when you were younger, a student at K-State. He's got the Mann Plan out there. I want to know, President Obama, I don't know if he threw people a bone by talking about some offshore drilling in his energy program, but what does the Mann say about a comprehensive energy plan for the U.S.?
We need lots of things, and Kansas can play a role in that. Certainly with wind energy, I think that has a place. Continuing to drill in Kansas, both for oil and natural gas, that has a place. So does ethanol. So I think as we look at the future of our energy program, a comprehensive plan, Kansas has a role to play, and we want to make sure that Kansas is able to play as big a role as possible.
But there's so many things out there that are the political third rail, Social Security, some other that you even start talking about, and you just get people's backs up. And these are massive spending programs, entitlement programs. You look at the Kansas education and Medicare take up about 85% of the budget, and they don't even want to go near that. And they got $400 million in the hole. And you extrapolate that out on a federal. Where do you even start?
I think you start in a lot of places. On the Mann Plan, specifically the size of our government and our spending. Number one, we've got to stop bailing out private companies and spending money to stimulate the economy. I don't believe that the government can spend its way out of a recession. If you add all those things up, that's more than $1 trillion. Secondly, I think we need a serious earmark reform. Earmarks are the gateway drug to Washington's spending addiction, and we've got to stop and dramatically reform the earmark process. And thirdly, the third thing in the Mann Plan is I believe we need to start talking in terms of dollars per American. You know, these bills are so big, it's hard to even comprehend. Every $1 trillion is $3,300 per person. So when we spend $787 billion on the last stimulus package, that's around $2,700 per person. And we need to start communicating this way so that members of Congress and the American people really understand the size and the scope of our federal debt and deficit.
I think people get so frustrated. I'm moving clear off you spoke.
Move away after 22 counties. We've heard it all.
You spoke eloquently there. I think people are frustrated. I look at a statesman like Jerry Moran, who voted against all the bailouts, everything, and then we still look at Congress as a body, and it seems like they're not listening. And that frustration I hear all over Salina and all over Saline County. People say, are they listening to us?
People are frustrated. I'm frustrated. And I feel like Congress, by and large, is not listening to us. I believe we need, and the problem is we have politicians in Washington, people that go there, stay there, and aren't willing to return home and aren't willing to have a normal job. My background is in business and in agriculture, not in politics. And I feel like we need business-minded people, not more politicians, if we're ever going to renew or change Washington.
If you get the bid or if you get the nod for the big first, do you say, I'm only going to do this for 6 years, 12 years? What's your commitment?
I'm certainly a supporter of term limits, and I don't envision this being a lifelong profession. Again, I think that we need people to go to Washington, D.C., do the right thing, be willing to not be elected if that means doing the right thing, return home to their normal job. That's how the Founding Fathers set this country up, and that's what we need to get back to.
So do you plan on doing the Jerry Moran plan of being on a plane every Friday?
That's our plan. Audrey and I live here in Salina, and the plan is that I would commute back and forth to Washington, D.C. Jerry does 69 counties every year. We did 22 last week, which we hope is a step in the right direction.
Have you had time to chat with Jerry in the past month or so and just kind of get his ear on some issues or thoughts on certain subjects?
Yeah, certainly have. I think he's frustrated, as are a lot of members of Congress that are doing the right thing. They feel like a lot of things have been ramrodded through, like this health care bill is a case in point, and it's frustrating to be in the minority and not be able to do much about it. But in my mind, with health care, we need to repeal this bill that's been passed and replace it with something that makes more sense for Kansas.
Are there any other colors besides red, white, and blue that you could put on a sign? I think, and this
it's a good sign.
It's a wonderful sign, but I think every consultant says, "Well, don't put up this. We must have red, white, and blue." I mean, that's kind of a standard operating procedure of politicians.
It's the color of the United States flag, and it just kind of fits. So
yeah. Okay.
Well, my hat's off to you. Your logo says "Deep Roots in Kansas, Not Politics," and I'm very attracted to that message.
And what that means, I grew up in Quinter on a farm. I'm the fifth generation to live in my house. My great-great-grandfather ordered our house from Sears and Roebuck, and it came on the train as a kit, and they put it together, and that's where I'm from. That's where my roots are. I'm not a politician, never have been, never plan to be. I'm a Kansan that cares deeply about the direction of our country and our state.
But you got a lot of work. You got a lot of traveling to do. Now, the primary coming up in August?
August 3rd, so it's a little less than 4 months away. 12 months or so ago, when we announced our candidacy in front of my barn in Quinter on our family's farm, and at the time it seemed forever.
Did you invite somebody out? Because if you hadn't invited anybody out, that would have been a lonely experience.
It's funny you say that. We set up hay bales in front of our barn and had a trailer that was all decorated. You can see pictures on our website, and we did that. We had a couple hundred people show up. And we've been off and running hard ever since.
What's phase 2? You did 22 counties last week. Now what?
We're going to keep doing counties. We are actually having a little planning meeting this morning to get ready for the next phase, but we will get to all 69 counties before this campaign's over and really talk to voters and members of the media and talk about the Mann Plan and my plan to get Congress and this country back on track.
What kind of car do you show up in?
I have a Tahoe, and it used to be burgundy. We got a wrap the other day. Spent a little bit of money. And so
I bet it's red, white, blue.
You might see it driving around. It's blue primarily, and has "Man for Congress" on it. So you might see that around town, or as we're throughout the district.
Well, and we saw your sign.
You saw it the other day.
I did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Saw your signs go up just a few weeks ago over here at the United Building. Is that your campaign headquarters?
That's our headquarters. Invite anyone to stop by anytime on the first floor of the United Building. And we also have campaign signs up throughout the district, 4-foot by 8-foot signs up all over the place on major intersections and highways.
And a website, too, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right, manforcongress.com, MANNFOR Congress.com. Also, you can call my cell phone at any time. I freely give that out at 785-201-7901. I have it with me all the time. Want to be accessible? Anyone can call me with any issue at any time.
If they want to be a part of the plan, call Mann.
You got
That's
it.
exactly right.
Very good. Tracey Mann, Republican candidate for the 1st District congressional seat. Good luck. Thanks. And we'll look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you for having me on this morning. I appreciate it.
You bet.
It's our pleasure.